Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's episode of the F.T.C podcast. And today we are going to discuss a topic that is very, very near and dear to our hearts. It's something that's going to touch the heart of America. It's about the current Biden administration. And today I have the panel today. We have V, we have Champ, and we have Chuck. And we're going to go ahead and discuss Joe Biden, his politics, the administration he's got going on right now. We're also going to take a little bit of a deep dive into some of his past as well. I mean, Joe Biden's been in politics for almost 50 years. So with that 50 plus year run in politics, he has a long history and a lot of remarks in regards to what's been going on in this world from the time of the baby boomers all the way till now. And when it also got some things queued up in regards to some of the things he said before in the past. And we're going to definitely touch on all those points today. But first of all, I want to say thank you all for joining. V, Champ, Chuck, I appreciate you all taking time out of your busy day tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and start off right here. The first topic of the discussion we're going to discuss will be in regards to some more recent news in regards to the hostages that were swapped with Iran and U.S. I'm going to go ahead and start off with you, Champ. I know you are a very huge anti-Biden person.
Damn. You can't just do that.
I mean, I'm just being honest. And this is the F.T.C podcast. We're gonna keep it real. I mean, I'm not a fan of the man either. Yes, I did vote for the man, but I'm not a fan of him. I voted for him just to get Trump out of office. I'm gonna put it out there and be honest with everyone. I voted for him just to get Trump out of office. But I'm gonna go ahead and start off with you, Champ. Based upon the information that you've looked into, the stuff that we heard recently in regards to the swap, what is your take on in regards to that?
Well, first off, I don't think I'm anti anything. I'm more pro certain issues. And if you happen to kind of not meet me on my side of those things, I guess it kind of looks like I'm anti, but I'm not anti Joe Biden. I'm just pro certain things that I think are near and dear to me. And if any politician doesn't meet those, then I guess you can call me anti.
I apologize for calling you an anti-Biden person. But we do know that he is not beloved by a lot of people within the Black community. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. There's a lot of reasons why people in the Black community support this man. It's like a win. It's like a win or take all with this man, or a lose and take. It's just not. It's like a 50-50 deal with this man. Like, but some people love him, some people hate him.
Is it really 50-50 at this point?
I could be wrong about the 50-50
number. I imagine when Biden probably took office, his approval rating amongst the Black community probably was around 50%. But as we're speaking on in 2023, in October, I imagine it's probably in the 30s, at best 40% approval rating, which is kind of in line with his approval rating in general. Because we all, considering he came off the shoulders of Barry, people don't know Barry, that's Barack. People voted for Barry because he was Black and he was second in command. So people thought, okay, his second in command, he gonna do some stuff for us. But as you alluded to, his 50 years of politics don't bear out those fruits that he's actually being great for the Black community. Some people will point to, the Supreme Court justice, but that's at a high level. It's cool. It sounds cool. Black female. They say he appointed so many other, Black justices. That's cool. I don't see the fruits of those labors also. People love to point to, oh, he got this weed deal. That's not for Black people. That's for America. Black people ain't the only people that smoke weed around here, which sounds kind of silly. So when you say, what has he done for Black people? It'd be really far-fetched for me to really point out anything he's done specific, like he's done some other communities, some other ethnic groups, some other, certain types of people that's in America. That's kind of my take on it. I'm sorry, Champ. This was your question here. You're supposed to be cooking right now. My bad.
Oh, no. Hey, trust me, man. I'm over here just checking off everything you just said. That was basically my script. And I don't think that like you stated, a lot of people vote for various reasons, and whether you felt like getting the Supreme Court justice was enough to justify your vote, then oh well. As far as the approval rating, I think that a lot of people that still vote out of habit, that vote out of tradition, who are conditioned to vote only one party, regardless. And you see it across the board on both sides. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of traditional Republicans and conservatives who probably didn't align with the previous administration, even though he was, prior to running, he was a contributor to the Democratic Party for multiple decades. So I'm pretty sure that their traditional values didn't align with them. But as long as they can get that one thing out of that candidate, I think they're willing to ride. And I think a lot of our community, as long as they get that one thing, I think most people will still try to justify voting for them.
Now, what is that one thing?
I know what my one thing was.
Yeah,
you know, say student loans.
Damn right.
That one thing can be a whole lot of things. And I think that once you kind of get out of that selfish mindset just a little bit, and like here in St. Louis, when you look around, and it doesn't have to be whether or not did he appoint a Black woman, did he do anything with weed, did he do anything with reparations, all those things that people may have as a issue. When you just look around at society here in St. Louis, just say, hey, X amount of years ago, there were not homeless tents on the grounds of City Hall in the city of St. Louis, Missouri. As of right now, there are homeless tents scattered over the grounds of City Hall. So if you step back from your own personal gains as a voter, can you ultimately just look around and say, has this administration been the best for society? And if you can look past society kind of, taking its twists and turns and crumbling around you, just to say, hey, at least he voted, at least he appointed a Black woman, I think that's a short-sighted way of being a voter. But when we're talking about the approval rating, I think we're still going to have a lot of voters that are unfortunately not being sophisticated with the votes.
And I can agree with you on that. I think for this election, for 2020 election, I know it's 3 years ago, and they're starting to gear up for everything for 2024. I think that at the time he was pretty much the only person that a lot of people saw, especially from the Democratic Party and a lot of people who were anti-Trump. He was the only candidate that could beat Trump. And like you said, the lesser of the two evil argument in regards to being the commander in chief. And I think that that's the reason why he got the votes to begin with. I don't think a lot of people really wanted Joe Biden. If he wanted Joe Biden, he would have got it in 2008 when he ran against Barack and Hillary back then as well. So I think that, like I said, we talked about this before in the past in our own little group, but I do feel that because he is the lesser of two evils, and he was the only candidate that was part of the Democratic Party that was actually capable of beating Donald Trump. It's the only reason why he's in the office. But at the same time, he's just not the guy. Of course, bringing on Kamala Harris, well, no matter what you think about it, he did bring on a Black woman, and he always said he was going to bring on a Black woman to be its vice president. I mean, yeah, that was just a...
Before we get too far down that line,
okay.
A Black woman. What's your definition of a Black woman? Because is
well, I mean, she's a woman of color. She may not be Black because she's what, Jamaican, half Indian.
But is she a woman?
I was just going to say that. In 2023, you got to be
2023, you cannot just identify somebody.
What is your definition of what a woman is? Is she a biological woman?
We got to get the new Supreme Court justice to answer for us.
Absolutely,
exactly.
But that's what I wanted to know, John. Like even something like that you're speaking as an advantage being used to garner votes isn't strictly for us. Like I think they play loose with the word Black. And they're only Black when it's convenient.
I mean, I don't think it was for us at all. He did that he did that for votes, of course. I mean,
well, yeah, of course.
We all know that he did that for the votes. And if you look at Kamala Harris's record, she's not for us either. I mean, she's locked up more Black people in California than most district attorneys back during her time. So she's not really for us either. Yeah, she's an AKA. Great. There's a lot of women that's AKAs who, aren't for us. So let's be serious.
That's that one thing. That's that one thing people always clamor on.
So because you got a woman that's part of his who went to HBCU. She pledged a black sorority. They feel that I think that was the
You have to be honest though, as you say this without knowing the history, that checks off a lot of people boxes though.
It does.
And
that's what catered to the black community in regards to votes.
It sells. It really, if you just told me, hey, Vice President Harris, HBCU, historically known sorority. First, I'm pretty sure there was a lot of firsts that she was in California in her field. It checks off a ton of boxes.
I agree.
And like you say, it hit in a way where voters go with that. Just like when Barack ran, he had to get the white male vote. Who do you get? You get a solid guy like Joe Biden who's been in office for years. Remember when Barry was trying to go, one of the critiques was he hasn't been in politics long. So who do you get? Somebody's been in politics forever. But you said something that hit me that was really curious to me. Like you say, in 2020, people were voting for the lesser of two evils. I'm curious, from V especially, what's his thought on that way of thinking? Voting for the lesser of two evils. Is that a way to vote?
I wouldn't. In my opinion, no, it's not the way to vote. But your ideology could change over time, which mine has considerably. I thought, okay, I was totally anti-Trump, but I wasn't pro-Biden. But I was so anti-Trump that I kind of excused. I'll use the word excuse some of Biden's stuff that he's done, stuff that he said, his actions, his lack of actions for Black people. Because my stance today is a lot different than it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and of course when Barack was in office. I voted for Barack Obama clearly because he was a Black man. He looked like somebody who looked like me somewhat, had the same melanin that I had. But with Biden, I was so anti-Trump that I kind of went in, I'll say kind of blindly into the burning building because I wanted Trump out because I felt like, okay, Trump wasn't doing anything for anybody who looked like me either. But then, okay, maybe Biden will. And that wasn't the case. He has done nothing for Black people. His platform was education, student loan forgiveness. I could do up to $20,000. He used the money hustle on us, and a lot of us fell for that because it was a pandemic going on, and anything that was going to put more money into people's pockets, they were for that. And I think that was something like kind of the banana in the tailpipe for a lot of Black people, myself included, that felt like, okay, maybe this will be something different here. Maybe this will be a change from the current regime. And you try to give a person a chance, but then I know you can say, well, Biden's track record has shown that he doesn't do anything for Black people when he was in office previously, as 8 years as the vice president. So, but I think so many people were anti-Trump, myself included, that we kind of excuse a little bit of stuff that we shouldn't have.
No. It's interesting. I like how you frame that your perception has changed over the years, which I want to kind of throw this one back at Jai because I know Jai was completely anti-Trump and what he's not done, but opposers will say, hey, he had the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. He's had the Police Reform Act. He's put $1 billion into small business loans. For what you hear there, is that enough? Or do you not see these fruits of his labor, or has it just not hit home to you yet?
When you see tens and tens and tens of billions being sent to fund the war over in Ukraine that none of us know anything about, $1 billion to the United States here, who has a homeless rate that's through the roof, that has hunger rates through the roof, that has Black people in despair through the roof. No, it's not enough. It's clearly
All
not
right.
enough.
And I agree. To piggyback off that, I do believe that he's done some things that are noble. I want to say that they're noble things that he's done. But the thing is, it's not specifically for Black people. He's in the way I think that he's trying to do things. He may be trying to gear it towards Black people. But the one thing that we can all say is that when you try to do something that's supposed to be for Black people, other minorities take it and run with it more than we do. For instance, an example of this, like the affirmative action bill, that was specifically for Black men and women to get hired at certain jobs and get in certain positions.
But was it written that way though?
It wasn't written that way. That's the thing about it. It wasn't written that way,
but that's by design though. That's by design.
It was done by design. It was also stated that it was supposed to be that way. But what happened with that after that happened? White women who are also considered a minority because they are a woman, they took that bill and they ran with it and they got those higher paying jobs. You go to a lot of different companies. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay women or whatever, but at the same time, you have a lot of women, white women, who are in these higher up positions of power. And I'm not saying they're not qualified for it, but there's so many more white women in leadership positions than there are Black men, Black women. So many more. And those positions usually be held by, of course, white men a long time ago. But white women have definitely taken the affirmative action bill and used it to their advantage to the point where they are now almost the majority in some cases in these higher positions, VPs, directors, and so forth and so on. They have a lot of those positions in corporate America where it was designed to be a way for Black men and Black women to get in those positions. And in regards to what Biden has done in regard to these other bills, yeah, he's done a few other things, and like you said, but there's not done anything for Black people specifically, and no president has done anything specifically for Black people.
That's what I was
I think
getting ready to
that
say.
we also said this before in our own conversations. No president, if they want to be elected, let's just be serious. And it's a sucky part to say it, but it's the truth, and the truth hurts sometimes. No candidate of any race is going to sit there and say, I'm doing this specifically for Black people and be expected to win. But you can sit there and do all these things for the anti-Semitic bill, the crazy, the hate, the Asian crime bill. There's nothing for an anti-Black crime bill. There's nothing for us that we can sit there and say that is for us, that any president has done to better us as a people. And it's to the point where it's like, me, honestly, I'm not a fan of either party, Republicans or Democrat. I'm not registered under any party. I'm an independent. I vote for who I feel is the best aligned with my personal views.
That's cool. Champ, can I ask you a question here? Because you will have somebody tell you, hey, in the last 30, 50 years, Black people have progressed in society a lot more. Yet I hear this conversation today, it almost sounds like we're still in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. What will you tell that person?
I would tell them that it depends on what you think Black people need. If you think Black people need tokenism or exposure, the limelight, recognition, you can definitely say that. We've come a long way to where a lot of our brothers and sisters have been able to make a comfortable living, or have been able to be considered superstars, or considered to be role models, or can have white friends, and can be a manager over every other day, you hear about some position we had never heard of, hiring the first Black somebody. So of course, we've gotten those tokens. Every little bit is good, so I won't totally crap on it. But as far as where we are as a community as a whole, I think that we are so much further behind our ancestors from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I think we've been
I agree.
lulled to sleep to a level that that they just didn't allow themselves to be. We all come from you know, a background where we may have had access to our grandmothers or grandfathers or older people just in the neighborhood. And there was a seriousness about them. There was a premium put on character. There was a premium put on manners and just how you conducted yourself. And you can tell that that's bore out of pride. That's bore out of self pride. There's no way I could walk into a grocery store and behave a certain way because it was ingrained in me. It was a part of my character. It was a part of who I am. And so when you just glance around and you see just the lack of self pride, just in the everyday functions that we, you know, have in our community, I think it's fair to say that mentally and spiritually, we've declined to a level that I believe is even lower than our ancestors from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So it's not even just political. I think if you just take that and just try and like, you know, stretch it across the entire spectrum of behaviors or things that's going on in society, I think you can apply it in all forms.
V, I see V, you wanted to get in on that also. Anything you want to kind of add on to that?
Well, no, I was going to say I agree totally with his assessment of Black society today. I felt like everything he said was spot on. I mean, I felt like morally, so many Black people are bankrupt. So many Black people don't have that compassion for anyone that looks like them. I feel like we're a generation of I got mine, you better get yours.
Get yours, exactly.
And I feel like that's to our detriment, us being sold that American dream. There's no sense of community. There's no sense of relationship amongst Black people. We even we don't even want to live near each other. We feel like it's better staying next to someone that's of another race than someone that's our race. And you could never, I'm sure, in the 30s, 40s, the 20s, even further than that, if you want to go back, they would never believe that we would evolve to where we only want to be around each other anymore. That sense of family, that sense of belonging is totally missing in the Black community today.
And do you blame that on, like, what do you blame that on? Do you blame that on the socioeconomic gap? Do you blame that on just our people doing certain things? Like, what do you blame it on?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to sit here. And I know one person on this panel can specifically blame it on one person.
We can blame it. We can blame it on the street right next to Paige.
Exactly. But I mean, that was part of the blame. I mean, that's clearly was us. We were put on the back burner when I feel like that sense of community was put on the back burner to achieve something that was never going to be achieved. We were never going to be seen as equals. We were never going to be on equal footing. We always going to start the race 10 steps behind. And a few, like Ken said, a few have, fell through the cracks and become successful and became, superstars in whatever field they are. And we should, as a whole, we should be okay with that. If one makes it, but then you got 99 that don't, it's kind of, so you can't say, oh, there's no inequality. Look at this guy here. Look at him. He's successful. But I can show you 99 other people who aren't. So it's like where I can't say, oh, this specifically happened. That's why we're in the situation we're in today. But I feel like if you want to fault Dr. King, I have no issue. I don't say fault Dr. King specifically, fault some of his teachings, some of his practices that so many people adopted.
The turn the other cheek. And I think that a lot of people,
I don't even mean to turn the other cheek. I think the acceptance part, accepting something is better than what you already have.
To be accepted within the white community.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, I mean, the thing is, when we were all right now, everybody when we were coming up in school and even schools today, when they have Black History Month, the first person they talk about is Martin Luther King. And I think he was a great leader. I mean, I'll say great leader. He was a good leader for believing in something, but the teachings for what he has back then don't equate to the teachings they have today, in my opinion. If you look at the contrast between him and Malcolm X was definitely the one who was trying to uplift Black people the most in regards to more of a knowledge standpoint, more than just a love standpoint. He wanted everyone to think for themselves, do for themselves, uplift within their own community for themselves, do the more pro-Blackness in the community. And that's what, because of the Christianity mindset, and of course most Black people were Christians, of course, back in those days versus the Muslims, they were always so accepted into that Christian mindset of togetherness and acceptance within the white community, because guess what? Granny had the white Jesus on her wall. We didn't have a picture of any other leader or any other model or anything like that on our wall besides a white Jesus, and we all know the history behind that. But I do have a question for you, Chuck. In regards to, I'm going to spin this back to the Joe Biden conversation. What do you think, besides the things that he said, that you said earlier, what do you think that he has done to win your vote again? If you were to vote for him in 2024, what would be your reasons for voting for him?
No, I think that's an incredible question as the lead up. As we look ahead to 2024, we all voted or didn't vote in 2020. What has changed since that time frame? Unfortunately, I don't think either party's done a great job of earning my vote. And like you vote, I vote for very specific issues, things that I believe in, against Champ's wishes. I saw my one thing and thought, hey, this is pretty cool. I can get this one thing for me. Unfortunately, Congress, not enough votes to do that one thing. But right now, I'm kind of in flux. Right. But right now, I'm in flux of my vote because I don't think he's earned my trust. I heard a lot of things. Police reform on the surface sounds amazing, but at the same token, that could be one or two things. You throw more money at the problem, or you take money away so they figure out the problem. He chose the former. He threw more money at the problem, saying, hey, we're gonna get more training for the police. That sounds good in theory, but that's just like, if you're gonna give more money to a person that's already treating you bad, generally it means more bad's on the way. It sounds cool. Student loan debt, that was a huge issue for me because, obviously I help America. And it's crazy when you talk to other people, other sectors of people, they hated it so much. They're always like, why don't you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go ahead, pay it yourself. You decided to take the loan. But I'm like, and these are the same people who have taken out PPE loans, those loans, same people that got the auto industry bailed out. But now when it's time to do something for your own American people, oh, now it's time to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I can't say, politics and international affairs probably way deeper than my knowledge, but on the surface, we're giving, like V said, we paying for a war. We're like proxy. So it's not America versus Russia. We just paying Ukraine to do the war for us. Unfortunately, I don't know how I'm gonna get these billions back. I hear oil, I hear all other commodities. I don't see it, And then we go, as much as I love all of our Americans, trading, I don't feel comfortable sending back mercenaries back to their countries for certain things. Yes, we want all our Americans home. It sounds great. It's cool. But at the end, this is international warfare. We're keeping mercenaries, terrorists off the street. I kind of want to keep them off the street. So for the things I've seen, I can't say he's earned my vote in 2024. And he's had time. Like you said, he's been in politics 50 plus years. So he's had plenty of time to earn my vote, earn my trust, and earn America's trust. I'm not saying the next man's going to be better. He's probably going to be more, he's going to be the, as you say, the lesser of two evils. But that's kind of where I stand right now. So long story short, he's not done anything in this current administration to earn my vote in 2024.
Okay. And Champ, I have a question for you. This is going to be in regards to the two-party system. Of course, we do know that the two-party system has failed because I know a lot of people always either vote strictly Democrat or strictly Republican, but there's other candidates and other options that's on the ballot. But 98% of Americans are going to choose one of the two. In your opinion, why does the two-party system fail like it? Why did it fail like it did in your personal opinion? I know it's a very open-ended question, but in your opinion, why do you think it's failed?
Well, I actually think the opposite. I think that it succeeds at the rate that it wants to succeed. I think the individuals who failed the voting system were the voters. Uh, we and I'm kind of keeping in line with what we were talking about with some of the acts, the Emmett Till Act, and all of these things. Um, they just attach a name on an act or a bill, and most of in our community, and I won't even just say our community because the masses across the board have pretty much allowed themselves to be lulled to sleep. But we don't read anything. We don't take the time to read anything. We don't take the time to do the due diligence. Everyone wants to, they don't want to do the hard work. You'll be hard pressed to find someone since they left high school who's read a book that they weren't required to read. And so I don't think that you'll get that same person when it's time to vote to try to comb through some of the bills and acts to see what's actually in it. We've just gotten intellectually lazy. We've gotten so conditioned to allowing someone else to do the work. I think it's asinine to think that just a handful of people in Washington is going to fix all of America's problems. A lot of American problems, start right in your living room. We can stress about how the educational system has fallen apart, but then again, you'll hear dialogue on social media about teachers having our kids for 8 hours a day. So once I get them, why should I be tasked with teaching them? They should have learned that in school. And you have a lot of lazy parenting. You have a lot of lazy, just effort given in all facets of life. You look at the general population's health. We're so obese. It's indicative of what's going on mentally. We've just gotten mentally lazy across the board, which allowed for our politicians, our food system, education system, banking system, every system you can think of that just happened to look around and be like, oh, they're gonna let us do this. And so they just keep doing it. Or they let us get away with this. Well, let's see what we can get away with now. And I think that we've not held our politicians accountable, but we can't hold someone else accountable until we start holding ourselves accountable. And that's most importantly, I think that we need to become a better voting base to get better results.
I agree with you 100%. That is the realest answer I've probably heard when someone answer that question. It's about looking in the mirror and figuring out what can I do. We can't rely on politicians to make our lives better. We have to do that on our own accord. Like you said, holding yourself accountable to do so. So I agree with that 100%.
But I think what he said was interesting, though. He said, with holding yourself accountable puts you in a better position to hold your politicians accountable. We live in the St. Louis area. We know some politicians who's been around for 40 years. Why? Because that's who somebody both voted for. And when we see them on the paper, we just hit the box because we know their name. Probably most of us didn't know what. Yeah. See, look at you. You calling out, you naming names. I wouldn't go do that. But
I'm just being honest, though.
But you look, though.
He was in office for 20 years and did nothing.
Exactly. Instead of reading, picking up a book, learning people's policies, like you said, affirmative action. On the surface, we think that's for Black people, but you read the language, it reads a whole lot differently. And somebody smart enough, and I don't knock anybody, if you read the language and smart enough to get in there, kudos to you. Like
Right.
if you look at the Emmett Till Act, look at the language. If you look at the George Floyd, how they presented it. People saw, ooh, even though it's really not called that. I forgot what it's called, the police reform or something like that, but people branded it as The George Floyd Act. Oh, okay, we all for that. We doing something for George Floyd. But again, read the language of all these things. They give it brand names, they give it spice, they give it pop. But you have to do your due diligence and actually read the language, because a lot of it's not as they give you the shorthand of it.
I think a lot of people also are, you know, how when you go to a concert and, you know, somebody on stage say, all the ugly people be quiet, and then everybody scream. So everybody in the crowd is not ugly. So I think that's what people have gotten. I don't know how to label
Condition.
that, but when you look at the bill, you know, they'll spend a good paragraph and a half just telling you how bad specifically Black people have gotten it. You know, Black people, Black people, Black people, Black people, Black people. And then when they get to the solution part, it's, you know, Black and underserved communities. It always usher in someone else instead of
Black
Black
and
people.
brown.
Yeah, instead of Black people saying, hold on, you know, they're ugly, they kind of just sit back and it'd be like, all the other people be quiet, and you know you're not proud. You know for a fact Black and brown doesn't mean Black people. You know undeserved community don't mean Black people, but you kind of just allow yourself to go along with it, and we allow ourselves to be undermined because we're too afraid to stand up and be hard line and be like, yeah, no, this needs to be Black. This isn't Black and brown. This isn't Black women and, you know, minorities. This isn't, you know, underappreciated people. You know, this is not about to be everyone else. This is going to have to be a strict hard line about Black. And I think a lot of Black people are afraid to say Black. They're really, really afraid to say Black. I don't know why, but if we want something specific for us, we have to be specific in our language and our codification.
Josh said it earlier. If you're trying to get elected to a political office, that's that's damn dynamite. If you mention the word Black specifically,
It is. It really is. I mean, like I said, no one's going to say anything specifically for Black people or Black anything and expect to get elected. And that's the sad truth that we live in. Before you, I'm going to play a clip. Then trying to get back towards the Joe Biden stuff. I'm going to play a clip of the 1994 crime bill introduction. This is what Joe Biden had to say.
That enable them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask, what made them do this? They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Democratic chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the Democratic President of the United States of America, the Democratic Attorney General, the Republican leader of this effort, Senator Hatch, the Republican senator from Texas. We all agree on that. Now, we can find some fringe folks in the study groups on the right wing and left wing, libertarians and left wingers in my party who say, no, that's not what we should do. But politically, that consensus has been arrived at. I acknowledge there was not that consensus in the 60s. There is today.
So that comment, of course, you know, about the 1994 crime bill, the introduction of the crime bill, which we know years later, because of the language, as you would say, Chuck, and how it was manipulated, is also what caused a lot of our brothers and sisters that are Black to be behind bars for frivolous crimes. And he's been, ever since then, he's also been like on the fence. This one, sometimes where he says he regrets it. This one, sometimes he says, I'm happy I still did it. Based upon what you've known now, this is almost 30 years later.
Hold on, Jack, real quick. Shout out to his energy. You see old 1994 Joe Biden? You see all that fervor and energy he had back then? He was really passionate about this.
Sleepy Joe there.
Oh, right.
Right.
He's a lot
LJ
different
Cool
now, yeah, because right now he looks like an old ghost walking around right now.
LJ Cool would be impressed with that.
That
Sorry,
boy's biceps the size of my leg.
but I do feel that that crime bill is set up. I think that crime bill has definitely made things worse in the Black community over the last 30 years because of Joe Biden. And I think we can all collectively agree about that. And that still surprises me why today, in 2020, so many Black people still voted for this man, including myself. Like I said, my agenda was completely just to get Trump out of office, like V said, completely anti-Trump. And that was the only reason why I voted for Biden. And he was the only candidate that was able to beat him. But
what's funny about that is the community's favorite president was the one back then was the one who signed that into law.
Yeah, Bill Clinton. Right.
But that's what I'm saying. It's throw on these shades and grab a saxophone. They'll be right there in line in November. And that's what he did. Hop on Arsenio, play a saxophone.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
it's just, I don't know. But when it comes to the crime bill, and as we're talking about, I think Joe Biden deserves every bit of criticism that he's earned with the crime bill and the things he said for 40 plus years. But if we're going to have a real conversation, then let's be real. It's a lot of Black politicians. It's a lot of our elders. Granted, that's from the 80s and 90s. So a lot of our elders were directly related or removed from the civil rights generation. It's a lot of people that look like us that did not have our best interests in mind. There's no way that a man should be able to sit and speak to your community like that. And you turn around in November and take your marching orders and convince the masses to continue to vote for him. Unfortunately, I hate that it's an image, but it always used to bother me how we grew up, we were coming of age, young men during Baby Bush's administration. And we know what the temperature and the energy around his administration was. And to see the rebrand of him where it almost seems like an effort to catch Michelle Obama hugging him and leaning up on him and, sharing peppermints and being his best friend. It almost seems as if there's always someone willing to provide cover for those who did us wrong. So granted, he got up there and said all of that. He's multitude of, I feel, racist statements that with racial undertones. And there's always someone to come in and kind of provide cover for him, i.e. MC Light. But there's
I was
more.
gonna say, he's blue.
There's more to it than just saying, hey, listen to him 40 years ago. Okay, we listened to him 40 years ago. Now let's look around and watch all those who look like us that pretty much sold us out.
Interesting point. V, what is your take on the whole 1994 crime bill up to this date, and pretty much piggybacking off of what Champ said?
Well, my take on it was a heavy-handed approach, and some people might say a heavy-handed approach was needed, but was it really needed? Because what's changed? Okay, crime is still rampant as it was over, since '94. So you propose this bill, and it affected a certain demographic. You get caught with the right amount of drugs, the right type of drugs. You get the three strike laws, all those type of things were aimed at a certain demographic. Crime was bad then, crime is bad now. So what was the end game by that? So you incarcerated a bunch of Black people specifically, and what you did was created a bunch of single parent households where people got caught with drugs that were supporting their family. So now they are put away for the next 30 to 40 years. So now you have a single parent, a single woman raising a child, and then 20 years later they have children. So it was basically
There's a
oil put on the wheel.
It's a domino effect for sure.
Exactly. That's what I feel about the '94 crime bill. That's what I felt like it was, and that's what it is. That's what it'll always be.
Interesting take. And Chuck, what's your take on it? I think we lost Chuck for a second.
You lost me.
Yeah, I asked you, you were silent. I asked you, what's your take on it?
Well, I think Champ and V pretty much hit it. You know, no point of me kind of carrying on with it. As we see the community, we're still in shambles right now. And I was just thinking bigger picture. I was just while you guys were talking, I'm listening to our take on this administration, how it's affecting our community. I find it hard to believe many other communities outside a very, very specific certain sector of people, you know, when it comes to, you know, the folks who are getting into America via immigration, as they've laxed a lot of the immigration laws, and some of the really specific minorities would be like, hey, this has been great. Hurrah, hurrah, cheer, cheer. Because I imagine if you looked at probably the white community, they may have a lot of the same things, but they may have the same hatred or same disdain for this administration. But they probably are like he's done nothing for them. Also, I think his administration has been very particular in who they've given, who they've wrapped their arms around. You know, right now we have immigration. You know, especially what we're seeing in New York, Chicago. We have homelessness. You know, so I'm veterans. Those communities probably aren't loving him the most also. So I find this hard to believe that his approval rating is above 30 or 35%. And who's that next set of leaders? You know, who do we have next? You know, is there anybody? I can't say I know anybody off the top of my head that I trust or believe in. So I was just sitting there thinking bigger picture that I don't know how many people are actually happy with this administration outside of a very specific sector of people.
And I think
because they cooked.
That's why I mentioned before, you know, it's not even about whether or not you voted for Biden and are you happy for it, you know, what his results are. Like I said, just look around. You know, I don't recall in my lifetime seeing tents on city halls, grounds of just homeless people. And when I say tents, I mean 15.
It's in the news. I've seen it. Yeah, it's like Tent City, right in front of you.
And it's getting worse. It's getting worse by the day at that. It's getting worse.
I don't have to say, did I specifically get what I voted for? I can look around and see, hey, society's not responding to something that's going on these last 3 years the way that it should.
And it's not just here, it's all over the place. Like I said, I was in Portland earlier this summer, and the situation there is horrible. It's also bad in Philadelphia. It's bad in a lot of major cities, period, where homelessness is through the roof. And I'm glad you mentioned the immigration point, Chuck, because I do want to bring this up to the table as well. Bringing all these different immigrants from that were refugees from overseas, and you're putting them up in these hotels and you're building new sky rises specifically for them. But like you said, you have millions of people living on the street and you're doing absolutely nothing for them. You're sending billions of dollars over to Ukraine. You have all these, billionaires here in the United States, and they refuse to do anything to help out, even pitch in just a little bit.
I want to be fair there, because I don't know, it's nice for billionaires to, want to chip in, but is it their responsibility? It's just like me and you, like, are we responsible for that person? Do I have to give my money because that I've earned? And I'm pretty sure that's what they're thinking also. Yes, to be charitable, to be noble, all that sounds great, but I don't think it's that billionaire's responsibility. As the government, the entity that's kind of running these things, I feel like they should do more. They should have better things in place to kind of help those kind of people, like you say, with addiction, homelessness. I don't think our resources are being spended correctly, honestly.
And
Do we have a new person
we
join
do have a
join the
new
party?
introduction of a person who just joined the show today. So we're going to go ahead and
Better late than never, but never late is better. I get it.
welcome to the show, Brother George.
That's some shit I had to do. What's up, y'all?
Hey, what's up, brother?
We're
Yeah.
just right now we're talking about the topic of the immigration that's been going on in this country, and in regards to contrast with the homelessness we have also going on in this country. We pretty much been talking about the Biden administration as a whole. So now we're going to go ahead and just throw you into the fire, George. Based upon your first question I asked them is like, I want to get your take on it as well. What has Joe Biden done to get your vote for 2024?
Nothing.
Great answer. Okay, I appreciate that.
Next question.
Way to elaborate.
Right.
He
They're
asked the
going into
question,
great
I didn't
detail.
answer. I mean, what detail is there really to give, though? I mean, take any politician that we've ever had, right? We are now in an age where information is readily available to us. We can do a lot of research. We can make a data-driven decision on shit that we want to do, whether we're buying a TV, whether we're buying a car, whether we're buying a house, whether you're voting. Information is out there to do whatever you want to do and impose your own and formulate your own opinion about something, right? Name me one president that has ever, I mean, besides the fact that now that we can go back and look at archives of things that people have said or promises that people have made and not kept and things like that. Now we have information readily available at our hands. There is not one politician out there nationally or on the federal level that has ever done anything worthy of getting, let's just say, Black community in a sense. Let me just say me. Let me not say Black, because everybody don't have the same Black experience. Let me not say that. Let me say me.
Mm-hmm.
There has been nothing that I have ever done or have ever voted for that I've ever seen changed. You understand what I'm saying? There used to be just punch the ballot, go down the ballot, press. That's what we used to do because that's what we were told to do. Now you have information at your hands to be able to make an informed decision on what these issues that you are trying to get addressed are. And if a candidate speaks to you in that way and you think that they're going to move a mountain for you, so be it. Vote for them. But if you do vote for them and they don't do it the first time they say something, then that's okay. That's shame on them. Now, if you come back and vote for them the second time on the same thing, hoping that these things are going to happen, because we're all guilty of it, then it's shame on you at that point, right?
No, it just means you can't be fooled no more.
I mean, you can't get fooled twice. It's a certain in Texas. I think it's in Tennessee too. Fool me once. I mean, you can't get fooled again.
Right.
No, but you understand the point I'm making, John, right?
I get you.
There is no today as we look at candidates today, and I just watched a Republican debate the other day.
That was full. That was some BS to begin with, anyways.
It was straight comedy. It was straight comedy. But at the end of the day, there is nothing tangible that anybody on Pennsylvania Avenue is ever going to do for anyone in our situations, period. For one, we don't put enough money behind them to get tangible things done, because that's what it takes these days to get that type of shit done. Two, we don't, in their opinion, we don't move the economic needle, but we are the economy in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't treat us as such. So you understand what I'm saying? So there is nothing that anyone can say to me that will get me today, October 1st, 2023, to get me to vote for them, period.
Interesting take. I appreciate the honesty in the background. So I played a clip earlier in regards to Joe Biden introducing the 1994 crime bill. And we know there's been a lot of brothers and sisters behind bars because of that. Some of them have been close to us personally. Some of them just within our community, what we've seen happen. And it's just irresponsible of the government to, based upon the language that's in the crime bill and what they disproportionately arrested Black people over any other race whatsoever. we've all asked the question in regards to the crime bill. George, I'm going to ask you this question as well. What is your take on the crime bill, and how has it really affected you? Not affected you personally, but how has it affected people in your community when which you grew up?
Well, I have personally for me, I have a brother doing a double life sentence for a drug crime, right? Allegedly, he murdered 2 people during a drug transaction, right? Now, everybody know that if drugs are involved with particular homicide and things like that, it can't be considered premeditated. It can't be premeditated. It's either dealt as a drug crime or manslaughter, right? But in their eyes, it was deemed as a premeditated event. I will say this: times have changed, and some of these laws have become less and less effective, and they have made reform on getting some of these people who have been incarcerated for a very long time opportunities to be free. Now, saying that, it's nothing wrong with the system. The system is acting the way it's supposed to act. The system wasn't built for us. So in a sense, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, but it's not doing what we think it should do. Let me say that to you. So the system isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So.
Very good point. What has Joe Biden and what the Biden administration in regards to what would you like them to see them if you were to vote in order for them to gain your vote in 2024? I know it's only a year of campaigning. Of course, they can make promises they're not going to keep. But if they were to hypothetically keep one promise that will make you vote for them, what would that be? I'm gonna start with you, V.
It would be so tough. But you said hypothetically, if they could do one thing.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
George, everything you came in and said, I said it already before. I don't see me voting for any. Man, I'm so dissatisfied with our political structure.
Just say the R word.
I mean, outside of reparations,
that ain't even, and that.
I'm just,
that's really, yeah. I mean, that's really the only thing that would really truly intrigue me to even take a look into casting a vote for the next presidential election, because it would take something monumental like that for me to actually really get involved and want to do that.
Right.
So outside of reparations, that would be it.
How about you, Chuck?
I think that's the big R word. You said if I can get one thing and I can actually hold on to it as something tangible, fungible, cut the check. And it's funny we talk about reparations. I've heard, we've seen 1,000 different ways they want to do it. They want to give you some land. They want to give you a nice housing rate. And the more I think about it, I kind of go back to my friend Champ. Just cut the check. Let me do what I want with it. Let me figure it out. And I know I want to hear G's take on it. I want to hear it. I love it.
What is that? What is that amount though? Like we talk about this in my household, and we have family gatherings all the time, right? Clearly, I mean, everybody want reparations. Nothing wrong with that. Right? But the question at the end of the day is, what is that number? What number's too big? First of all, there's no such thing as a number being too big. So get that out the vocabulary.
That's very true. There's no number too big.
But there is a such thing as a number being too small.
Yes.
Okay. And the other thing is too, when you do get that number, is that number embarrassing or insulting to your ancestors? That's the question. Are you saying that all of this money that you're going to get wipes away what happened to them? If that's going to make you feel better, to say I got that kind of money and now I'm good, does that equate to what they went through to be able to get us to where we are today? So the question is not about reparations or how much can they give us, because there's never going to be a tangible number that works for particular. And once again, everybody who looks black don't self-identify as black, or they don't have they didn't have a black experience.
Right. Some people will when the money come around.
Right, well, that's right. I mean, right. Whenever money comes into play, people find a way to become Afrocentric real quick. The
Yeah,
dashikis and
right.
Afro come out of
The
nowhere.
dashikis
yeah.
out real
No,
quick.
for real.
I thought it was
But my-
interesting. I thought what you just said was really interesting. Say they come up with whatever number, it's almost like after they give you that, it's more like once you paid off a debt, I don't want to ever hear about this debt again. Like, is that an insult to your ancestors because they lived through it? Is there ever going to be a number to make you forget about what happened? Thought that was really interesting.
I mean, if you think about it, look at the Jewish community because the Holocaust survivors got money.
Some people
guess
say
what? They still talk about the Holocaust left and right.
So
they still talk about it.
No, for real. Some people say that shit didn't even happen. So I mean, we talking about folklore.
The thing is, they got money. They got reparations, and they still talk about it.
It's also the nation. It's also the nation of Israel that has a chokehold on the United States. So they're going to forever be in their debt for something.
That's very true too.
We don't know why, and we may never know why. But I mean, it is what it is at this point. Sam, what was you about to say?
I think that the emotion has to be taken out of it. I don't think that reparations is anything more than a debt owed. It's not as if they're paying for our ancestors' pain. They're not trying to atone for the past. The past is the past. I think that it kind of cheapens our reparations claim when they try to treat slavery as if it was its own separate entity. Slavery was just a method. The ideology of this society is still the same. The various areas of control, i.e., agriculture, medical, judicial, everything is still coded with the same philosophy that slavery was. So we're never. I don't think that anyone is rightfully asking for you to pay away the pain. It's just a debt owed. So in that sense, I don't think anyone should feel somewhat even bothered by putting a dollar amount on what reparations are. Reparations are a debt owed by this country. It's not a debt owed by white people to atone for slavery. This is a claim, a justice claim, a reparations claim to the United States government. And as far as the amount, there has to be a starting point. But again, like I said, the roots from slavery is ingrained so deep in every single aspect of the society that it's strictly a starting point. If there's going to have to be some type of recurring means, there's going to have to be, a protected. We have to be a protected class. There's just so many things that go along with it to ensure, our ability to continue to grow. Because right now, I mean, the median, I believe they said, I've read somewhere like by 2050, the median household amount for Black Americans is going to be down to zero. And as much as we like to, look at ourselves and feel like we're doing well enough for ourselves to survive, there are people that are just like hanging on by a thread. And as we mentioned numerous times tonight, just with homelessness, I mean, there are a lot of people hanging on by a thread. And then you account for those who are doing right, those who aren't doing bad. You get a landlord and tell you that, your 2-bedroom apartment is now $1,500. It's not something that needs to just be tied to the fact that, my family had to deal with slavery, so pay me for slavery. It's like, no, we are one of the original citizens of this country. We need to be repaired financially, and they do it for every other country or other tragedy they decide to pay for. We didn't choose that method. The United States government chose that method. They chose the method to give money to the Native Americans and to the Jewish and to all these individuals. So if that's your method of paying a debt owed, then don't act crazy now and start telling us that ours have to come in a housing voucher.
Do you think everybody thinks that way though? Because there's a small percentage of people who only think that way. When you bring up the word reparations to anybody, and I'm not even trying to exclude anyone or even give a socioeconomic class a pass or people with different education levels a pass or anything like that, because like I said, Information is data is out here for everybody to read and make their own decision on based upon what they know and what they can absorb. You bring up the word reparations I guarantee you, to at least 85 to 95% of the people, the first thing they're gonna say is they need to pay because of slavery. It's always rooted in what happened in slavery. It's not about what happened after slavery, because that's Jim Crow was a part of that. The institutional racism is part of that. It's a whole bunch of things that are rooted into Black people, and I'm only talking about Black people. I don't speak in terms of Black and brown people. I talk about myself. Those type of things are what reparations should be about. It's not about one particular time period. It's about from whenever we decided that there was an injustice to our people to present day, because it hasn't stopped, which means there needs to be perpetual payments, in my opinion. There's not one particular number that you can put on that. You need to pay, just like when a person goes to trial for discrimination or anything at work, and they can also add on pain and suffering and mental cruelty and stuff like that. There's a certain number that goes with that, and whatever a judge decides. It's for a specific time period. And I wish our resident counsel was on so he could speak about it as well. But there's a time period that goes with that. But this time period is still ongoing. So as if it's going to continue to ongo, then that means the payments need to be perpetual. And there's a such thing as back payment too. I'm all for it. I don't think that anyone who identifies as Black, and I don't think that you even have to go back and do an ancestry.com or 23andMe and none of that shit. If you're Black, you're Black. It's just that's where it gets muddy, because you have a lot of people who don't want to be Black till it's time to be Black, who could benefit too. But that's something that we can't worry about as an individual. You can't worry about that. You have to be worried about your immediate family and what's going to help your immediate family out. I can't worry about what happened to my neighbor. They said if there's a blessing, if my neighbor is blessed, that means the blesser is in my neighborhood. So that means it's close by me. I can't be worried about what happened next door. I just know that it's going to happen to me as well. And that's how I look at it, man.
Interesting take on that as well. I know that reparations is definitely something that we've talked about in our own personal surroundings and everything like that. And I think it's definitely warranted for sure. We all could definitely, and it can come in. I'm not saying it's not going to come in, like you said, a housing voucher. And this, like you said, they need to cut the check. And at the same time, you're able to give, like I said, billions of dollars to or in aid to Ukraine. You're able to give money to our NAFTA and NATO friends, our allies. You're able to give them money to help them out. You have all this money to spend on that, but you can't cut the check to the own people in your own country. I have a really big problem with that. And it's not even just about reparations. It's about, say, with the homeless situation. You have all these people suffering, and the government is doing nothing about it.
But how do you get that money though, John? I mean,
it's hard. It's hard to get the money. The thing is, you gotta have the right policies in place. And then there's no politic is going to actually fight for us to do so. And that's part of the problem.
Who's going to do that?
I think this is when we start to lying to ourselves a little bit. It kind of back a little bit to what you had said earlier, George. You said, how many people know that though? If you ask anybody what reparations is, they'll say, pay me for slavery.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's fair. But, we don't have to be intellectual stalwarts to get other people to get things passed. I don't recall a study being done. I don't recall the proper amount of signatures to get this sent here, to draft this and come up with an amount, like to do all the legwork to get what we want. I don't recall that for what's being sent to Ukraine. I don't recall that when the amounts are given to other communities. So the reason why I say that is, I think when it comes to us getting our check, the conversation never is about how astute we are on anything else. But when it comes time for us to get our check, all of a sudden we gotta turn into financial advisors. We gotta know the amount. We gotta know this. We gotta know that. We gotta know this. We gotta know that. Just I mean, it's pretty clear what needs to be done. And I don't think the onus is on us to always have to go point by point and asking what we want to get, while everyone else can just come up with an idea and get whatever they want off the rip.
That's fair. That's fair. But the question is, are we in those communities who've gotten paid before? Do we know what they went through to get it? Or are we just looking from an outside perspective to say they got it? And
Well,
it's because here's the deal, like I believe that none of these things just happen because someone cried out and said this, that, or the other. There's always task force. There's always, everything has to have a paper trail to it. It has to. That's when we start questioning things that if we don't see it, okay, well, what happened? How did we get to that point, right? So I try to caution on trying to speak on other people's reparations and what they get or how they went about doing it. All I can speak about is what we're trying to do as a people. And you're right, you don't have to be these intellectual people to request what you want. But here's the issue though, Ken, what I'm trying to say is $40,000 may not do nothing to change your life, right?
okay.
$40,000 for someone who is homeless or who lives in poverty right now will change their life. There's levels to this. And in order for us to understand, we also need to help and make the people who are less fortunate than us understand the bigger picture. Because we know as a race that if anybody throw a check at us, we taking the bag. We taking the bag. I mean, no matter what the size is, someone's going to say they took it, and then they're going to look at us and be like, well, this was good for such and such, so why can't it be good for you? That's what we have to stop doing. We have to stop allowing like our dominant counterparts, these other cultural people, these other white people in society to say, oh, I have a white friend. I mean, I have a black friend and he said this. Like every black person isn't the spokesperson for every black person. And everybody who takes a bag is not a spokesperson for every black person either. So that's what I'll talk about when we have a conversation. We may know what we're looking for, but I think it's our responsibility to hit the streets and be able to help people understand what we're trying to do as it relates to reparations. Just like it's people who make way more money than us who needs to educate us on what reparations look like for them. And then we need to and keep going, because once again,
I agree with you on that end. I was talking more so about the drafting and the asking aspect. It's somebody right now on a reservation. They can't, and I'm not trying to be funny, probably can't write his own name in cursive, but
right.
his money's in his account on this date and that date. And they know who we are when it's time to come get us for something bad. They know who the Black Americans are in this country. So I was thinking more so about the asking and the application of it, not the actual making people aware of it. Of course, I think there needs to be a concerted effort to make the awareness amongst our community not only cohesive, but where it makes sense on, like you said, levels, and not just because P. Diddy is on stage and he says this, that's what the voice of the
Right.
community is. So I agree
Right.
with you on that aspect. I was just more so talking about it shouldn't have to take, our biggest and brightest to draft the perfect, bill in order to get it done.
But it shouldn't even be a bill. I mean, it should just be a demand. I mean, as much as you don't like the good Reverend Doctor, one thing that he said that sticks out when he was talking at the church before he did the March on Washington and before he got shot is, we're coming for our check. That's what the man said. That's all it takes.
I agree.
For us to monitor.
You're a little late. So this the second time I've been called out about that, and I that's the second time. I tried to let the first one pass, but I guess I have to defend myself. It's not that I have
Not saying lightly. I'm not saying that you have any malice against.
okay, yeah.
It's
I'm
all in
so,
your spirit.
I'm more so just with his understanding, and we're going to go with a quote of his is where he said, you know, he feared that he's led, you know, us into a burning building.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm pretty sure, you know, hindsight is 2020. I'm pretty sure his intentions were good. His message is good. I think that sometimes the aim is a little off mark, and there were enough people back then who did not necessarily want to take that approach. And I think that he was given the biggest, the loudest microphone. I believe he was, you know, given the largest backing, with the ability to, you know, give that speech on, you know, in Washington D.C. Like there's a platform that was given to him, and
There's a reason though. There's a reason.
Yeah, that's
why.
not by accident.
Yeah, and that's
the reason why. I mean,
and that's what I'm saying. His message was. It seemed his message was the one that was pushed for very specific reasons, even to the point to where he realized that he may have led us into a burning building. So that's all of
but I
my.
think right, but I also think, and now we're not going to belabor this point at all because this is not a podcast on MLK, but I also
That's next week.
That's later down the line. No, I actually believe that I don't think that he was picked by a group of people because they felt like his message was to only get us to a certain point. Come from humble beginnings, Harvard graduate. He's an alpha. These things meant a lot back then. These things meant a lot back then to people. And I'm not saying it, no, John, I'm being real. I'm not saying it to these type of people and Ralph Abernathy, you all these
Right.
people like these things were all these people
the main four were there at the time. Yeah.
That's my point. These people meant something to Black people. You understand what I'm saying? They meant something to Black people,
and the Greek organization lifestyle meant a lot to the Black community back then as well too.
Correct. So, and the point I'm making with MLK is that he saw something bigger for us. But I also think the game changed as his messages became louder and louder. The government started shifting things. I don't think it was his wording that was shifting. I think we were playing spades, showing them our cards, and that's what we fucked up at.
Well, you know, and like you said, I don't want to stay too long on this, but just to say, when you use words like he saw something better for us, or he saw something bigger for us, and saying that, you know, those names meant a lot in the Black community. I truly believe that it's a little misleading. V spoke earlier about, you know, just some of the ills of our community, and he mentioned how, you know, we don't even want to live next to each other. And the majority of Black people back then did not have access to college. They didn't speak the way that Martin Luther King spoke. They didn't dress the way that he dressed. They didn't run in those circles. They don't know anything about a cotillion. They don't know anything about Alpha Phi Alpha. When you talk to the general community of Black people, they were looking for any way to find some type of justice. If it came in the preacher man who's an alpha who went to Harvard, cool. If it came in the form of a Black Panther Party who's dedicated to feeding the kids at school, and then fine. But it was more so looking for a vehicle towards justice. I don't think that they were a pure representation of the community, because those are the same ones who, and we've seen it. I'm not saying it based off of just assuming, the same ones who are Harvard graduated, who are parts of the fraternities and sororities, who do have the resources, they don't live next door to us. So if that's how it's being carried now, I would assume that's how it was being carried back then. I think that that's why I said the aim was kind of off, because integration at that level where we were willing to sit at counters and be abused just to drink their water, just to eat their sandwiches. I think that it was not a proper representation of the Black community as a whole. Black community as a whole were people that did for themselves, who were conservative, who, you know, we didn't live in the big city of Atlanta. There's a lot of Black people in this country from Mississippi, the Louisianas, the Arkansas, the Missouris, that wasn't their reality. And I don't think that he was quote unquote chosen because of he fit a profile. He just happened to be who he was with that message. And that was what was given the loudest microphone. That's all. And I love the brother. Please, 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 can y'all stop saying? I just think that
He's only saying this because it's being recorded and it's digitized.
That's it.
That's it.
When Jack put this on YouTube, it's gonna have hashtag free MLK when champ speaking.
Right.
Next week, look at next week. He coming on with black frame glasses,
Right.
white
Exactly.
shirt, and a black tie. No,
Singing, I have a dream today and stuff like that. I had a dream last night.
I know, but I think you hit on a lot of key things there, champ. The only thing I say about integration and segregation is that some of us. This was a paper I wrote on in college about this, and did a little bit of research on it. And when you look at a lot of the literature on integration and segregation, we were just asking for choices. We were asking for options. That's all we were asking for. If you decide that you don't want to live in this community, let us have an option to go somewhere else. If that's over in suburbia somewhere, so be it. It wasn't a sense of we as a people need to pack up our shit and go live with them. It was us having, just like you said, drink their water, eat their sandwiches. It was about availability of having better foods, better resources, and things like that. It wasn't a matter of trying to live with white people. It was trying to have the option to receive the same resources that they have and that they were offered and things like that. So
it's hard to say that that's the case when that's the very first thing that happened when.
Well, because not for all blacks though. All black people didn't want to move with white people. It was there's always going to be a certain subset of people who think what you see over here is better than what you have over here. I'll give you a perfect example. St. Louis City, 1980s. And you have to look this up. Pruitt, 60s, 70s, Pruitt, Igo, all that stuff. They used to run tests on people in the projects and stuff down there. People used to love living in the city. Easy access to downtown. Let the 90s come. Mr. Bellman sells a farm in North County. They start building these houses that white people are buying up. Black people are seeing the same thing. Oh, it's a lot of population growth out here. Maybe it's better out here. And as soon as you get your black ass out there, they come back and take over what is considered the north side of St. Louis, Midtown, Central West End, places that are closer to downtown, because we thought that what we had wasn't good enough. But you still got some black people who still live down there, and then because of eminent domain, they tore their homes and stuff down, forcing them to move. So it wasn't necessarily about because North County was booming that you had to move out there. The allure of it, which is a poison to black people, is what made them move from their community. Chuck grew up in the Blue Mile. The Blue Mile, back when it was first built and stuff like that, why would you even want to move? As time went on and the subsidies stopped coming in for them to fix these places up, started to let these places go down, which forces you to say, we got to get out of here by hell or high water. Just like Cabrini Green in Chicago. These places used to be flourishing housing projects.
Why did those subsidies stop, though?
Because white people wanted you to move out of that area because they wanted that area back for themselves.
It's funny. It's funny when you say the Blue Mile. My grandma used to always say it was a badge of honor to her when they actually built the Blue Mire was like one of the largest housing. And when people think project, people usually have a negative connotation. Housing project back then, it was literally to build a huge community. It was the largest housing projects in the Midwest. She wore it as a badge of honor. When they built these things up, as you said, they were literally to move communities together. It was a large community. And like you say, in the 80s and 90s, the funds, because it was a huge federally funded program. That's a fact. And then those funding stopped, those subsidies stopped. And then, as you know how that goes, when the funding stopped, you can't build, you can't grow, you can't maintain. The things change. People found different options to maintain, And then you know what happened during the 80s and 90s where the community was broken up. So then what are you left with? And then you go full circle. You look at the Blue Mire today, ain't a lot of that community there. Why? No. SLU bought it up. A couple of builders, developers bought it up, and they doing their best to move it out.
Exactly. It's going to be lost. So my point, my mother-in-law used to manage Pruitt-Igoe back in the day, right? Mm-hmm. She used to work for HUD, Housing and Urban Development. That was her boss. She worked for the government. She had a G job. And she used to tell us stories about how her and her mother used to live there too. And it was just like, they can go downstairs and go out the door, maybe go 200 feet left or right. There's a grocery store there, owned by Black people or owned by someone within the community. Mm-hmm. Their doctor was literally around the corner. Their dentist was around the corner, that type of stuff, right? Same thing happened with those people. So when you start to get Medicaid and Medicare, and they say, well, in order for you to maintain your level of your practice here, you can't accept this because we're not giving money, because they can go to the clinic, they can go this, they can go that, which forced Black doctors to say, okay, well, I need to go, especially in private practice, I need to go where the money is because I have to survive too. So it's all tactics on why we no longer live in those communities. And then something else you said, where like V said, Black people don't want to live next to Black people. We only know that because we live in the Black community. But if you ask white people, they'll tell you the same. That it's the same. It's pretty much the same everywhere you go, in certain pockets. You got some Mexicans who don't like. I was golfing today with two Mexican friends. One is a lawyer, one is a foreman on a construction site. And they was like, we didn't want to marry Mexican women because of their attitude, and that's why we married a white woman. What does that sound like to you?
That doesn't change the fact that they're still the same.
Right.
How you rationalize it. I think you can't community build if you're not willing to build within your home. So it's the same. If that's their mindset, then they just mirror the mindset of some of the undesirables in our community.
Well, I don't think, but see, that's where, and this is where I will stop you. I would stop saying the undesirables in our community, because our undesirables are wanted by somebody, just like their undesirables are wanted by somebody. You understand what I'm saying?
They definitely want it because, like you said, when Black people move out, they're buying it up and they're revamping it into what they want it to be. Look at the south side of St. Louis. You see the north side of St. Louis. They're redoing the neighborhoods and getting it to look so much better.
I think we're talking about.
I know, but still, people, neighborhoods, everything. It's all irrelevant with each other.
That's true. I mean, but I look at it once again. I look at it and say this: that our problems exist in every racial community. It's just we are so much in tune with it because we are who we are, and it gets more public and more press. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. Whether y'all know it or not, we are the standard.
Oh, I agree.
And people know that. So whenever they get a chance to see that the standard has fallen, they're going to put it out there and broadcast it to everybody. That's as simple as it gets.
Good point. Very good point.
Do y'all think America would be what it is if we didn't build this motherfucker the way it is?
No,
Nobody believes that.
no one believes that. I mean,
Right.
it's the
So
truth
there
of
we
the
go.
matter.
Right.
I mean,
So once again, if we start acting like that and force others to start acting like that, that's the first step in the right direction. I always say,
How do you force that?
how do you force it?
Yeah.
The same way, as Champ said, the same way that Diddy gets on stage and force shit. Stop sending bought and paid for niggas on stage to be
Whoa.
speakers.
You're not gonna do that to V Boo. You're not gonna do that.
Damn.
can't do that to her.
That should be a topic for the next,
I agree. I agree.
I'm
We'll hold it off for next episode.
I'm sorry.
That's gonna be Dog V's boo.
Hey.
Title is so bought and paid for.
I apologize. We have a way to allow algorithms to show us what we want to on Instagram, Facebook, and all these other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We also have people who can build AI to be able to put these things in the forefront, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
All it takes is for someone to be brave enough, and that could be us. All it takes someone to be brave enough to push these things out. But I think where we get scared is that whenever we start to be brave, we get killed. It's throughout the history of time. Anyone who tries to be brave, anyone who tries to be brave and speak up for the community, something happens to them. And I think people get scared of that. But if you're not willing to die for what you're talking about, don't talk about it. That's just how I feel about it. We could talk about it on GroupMe and other stuff. That's why when y'all hear me say, well, we talk about it always on here. And especially when I talk to you, Champ, and say, go do something about it. Like we can talk and whine to each other all day. But how is that moving the needle to the people next door to us? Because they don't get a chance to look at these GroupMe texts that we have.
Well, I mean, I think that, that's part of underselling just the general energy of our community. If we're talking about the conversation about Joe Biden, and we played a clip from the 94 crime bill, that's 1994. No one was saying reparations. No one was deeming it as a situation where they were going to approach their potential candidates that they're voting for about it. Fast forward to the last presidential election, the Democratic debate. Bernie Sanders had to field questions about it. Elizabeth Warren had to field questions about it. Joe Biden has to field questions about it. The conversation so far is not just reserved to people's personal conversations. The conversations about reparations has reached the forefront, and it's not like it's taken forever. We talk about Barry's administration. We didn't hold his feet to the fire on that like we should have, and that wasn't a national discourse.
Did we put money behind it though?
But did we? I mean, but what money's being put behind it now? I don't think that we need to have. That's what I'm saying. I don't think we need to be filthy rich to
No.
I'll give you about a debt that we're owed. Again, we don't have to lobby.
I'll give you no. But okay. Take Barry, for instance. And if you go back and look at campaign figures for his campaign contributions for his campaign from the LGBTQ community, large funds. What's one of the first things he do when he gets in office? Passes the same-sex voting.
Yes, passes same-sex
marriage. Same-sex marriage. And because we as Black people never put our money behind an agenda to get it pushed. We never do. Because there's fear that if we do it, it still won't get done. But when you look at, and I'd never compare sexual orientation to race because it's not apples to apples. It's not even remotely close. But what specifically as a Black person just as a Black need only, could Barry had done for us? Just for Black people only.
Are you asking me specifically? You asking V, or you just asking the panel?
It's open to anyone. I just want to. I just want to. I mean, because we always talk about Barry being our president or the Black president, this, that, and the other. The question is, what specifically could Barry had done for Blacks only that would have moved the needle for us, in your opinion?
That's a very good question.
I'll wait.
Well, I tried to give somebody else an opportunity to go because I didn't want to.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
But I think that just my expectations of what I thought he should have done then versus the reality now have shifted quite a bit. What could he have specifically done
For Blacks?
For Black people?
For Blacks and Blacks only, yeah.
For Black people only. I think that people look at grand gestures far too much. I think that symbolically what happened to our people in this country deserves a certain respect. So when, a cop racially profile, abuse someone strictly on the terms of him being Black, I would expect our Black president to hold the line as opposed to trying to turn it into a let's have beer in the Rose Garden. I would expect for my president, when he sat down and he does he does these token symbolic conversations with individuals who are supposed to be tapped in with Black community, and he's asked about reparations. I would expect the Black president not to frame the conversation and discourse around reparations as to how would that make Asians feel? How would that make Hispanics feel who had nothing to do with slavery? Those are the things that I'm not going to expect one Black person to drag Congress and the Senate across the finish line by himself. But to be a representative of the Black community as a Black president, those small things that are historically ingrained in every Black person's experience should be handled with more respect. The lack of respect that in itself was handled with trumped everything else he could have done symbolically on a grand scheme, because it lets me know your heart wasn't in it. It lets me know what your perspective on things are, and it lets me know exactly where we stood within what you're trying to accomplish and what you don't want to accomplish.
That was a great answer for what were your expectations of Barry.
You asked what could he have done. I told you what he could have done. It's very simple gestures.
No,
he could
I'm saying,
have
no. So specifically, I'm asking you, what could he have done specifically for, like, tell me what, in your words, what could he have done for Blacks and Blacks only? Not what you would expect him to do in those type of situations, but legislatively, lawfully, what could he have done specifically for Blacks?
I'm confused as to what you're saying. Are you saying what he could have done legislatively? Because if that's the case, this is not a Barry conversation. This is this is a Democrat conversation. Because for the first 2 years, he had the House, the Senate, and the White House. So everything that we're talking about now, he could have done. He could have made steps or have attempted to make us a protected class. He could have actually put the reparation conversation to the forefront. These are things, everything that we're asking of Joe Biden or any other person, he could have done. So the conversation is not necessarily about Barry. It's about the Democrats at this point. So if we're going to say what could he have done legislatively, let's talk about the legislation. They all could have done it. So to try to, so hold on, but to try to frame the conversation as if he's just one man. What could he have done for Black people specifically? He was the president. The Democratic Party held all three branches. They could have, as a collective, everything that we're asking today, tomorrow, 10 years ago, that you would deem beneficial for Black people only, that's what he could have done. That's what he could have done. It's not a hard question at that point.
They held two branches.
So they didn't have the House
no,
Senate and the White House.
no. Judicial is the Supreme Court. There was never a Democrat. So that's what I'm trying to. I was no. For the sake of the podcast, I want to make sure that we're accurate. That's all I'm doing. I'm not saying you're wrong. I understand what you're saying. I only asked that question because it comes back full circle to what Josh's original question was. What could Joe Biden do to make you vote for him again? If Barry didn't do anything specifically that we could come up with, why would we expect Joe to come up with anything specifically that that he's going to do for us? Or any president for that matter. Because when it comes to Blacks asking for things, it's always morphed into Black and brown people. There's never tunnel vision for African Americans only. Because they expect us to always be the sympathetic ones and say, I get it. If we got it, then others should have it. Some of that mindset has to die off at some point. And one of my mottos I used to tell my kids in school was, the answer is always no until you ask. But there's a way to ask for things too. And there's ways to go about showing people you're serious about your ask. But the first thing we have to do is stop letting people speak for us who are not even in the same tax bracket as us. I don't care if you came from poverty and now you're a billionaire, you don't have my problems. You had my problems. You don't have my problems. And we allow celebrities to go and voice opinions and lead these rallies and stuff like that, when everything should be grassroots. Just like Jay-Z or Diddy should be able to be on stage, the poorest of the poor should be on stage to address and say what they need to say. Because they're the most dangerous one, people believe, because they're going to tell the truth about what's going on in their situation and circumstance. The soft land is letting a celebrity do it because they're not seeing what's going on in the gutter right now. They may have understood back then what was going on, but as of right now, that's not their problem. And we keep letting these people go on stage saying what we want and what we're going to do, and they're never going to take it seriously until the people who are actually going through it have the platform to do so, in my opinion.
Good point. And I know we're about to wrap this up, so we got a few more minutes left in the show. Last question for the panel. I'm not say it's even really a question, more of a state. Like I know this conversation starting off with Joe Biden, and it kind of veered off into the Black community, and it kind of plays hand in hand with the Joe Biden, Barack Obama, the Black community, how it all played out the last few 10, 15 years or so. But what do you see? I mean, what do you hope for the future in regards to the community in relation to the political agendas, especially for Black people? I'll go ahead and start with you, Champ.
Real simple. I think that what I hope to see, I think I will see, and I think that we need to see. I think we need to love ourselves more. I think we need to respect ourselves more. I think that we need to invest in our spirituality more. And like I stated earlier, once that inner accountability takes place, we'll be better equipped to have expectations or standards for someone else. So that's what I think.
How about you, Chuck?
Well, I think the most important thing is key is education. education, for yourself, education for what you want, education just to be better. And also it starts at home. If we expect the next generation to do better, us as the generation leading have to be better, teach our kids, love our kids, educate our kids, make sure they know how to ascertain certain things, whether that's education, know how, make sure we support them, let them grow. Because again, we're going to be fossils before we know it. Hopefully, we left something behind that can continue and to help possibly grow our community.
How about you, V?
I would say be living, breathing examples. Be your kids' hero. Don't let no sexy red be your daughter's hero. You be your
Oh,
daughter's hero.
that's your girl.
Don't be
I
like
know.
that,
I'm
B.
sorry. I know.
I
I'm
thought
just
we were
saying
gonna push
that's
that
the
back to
problem, man.
next week. We're supposed to talk
I
about
know.
that
I'm just
next
saying,
week.
man. But that's where we at. We let people be our kids' heroes that are bought and paid for
Mm-hmm.
giving a platform to act a fool and be this menace, and we allow our kids to fall into that. We need to be our kids' hero. The women, men, the elders. We need to be that structure. We need to be that backbone. We need to be that face. And it doesn't take you. You don't have to be rich to be someone's hero. You get up and go to work and be positive and not be out here acting a fool and be responsible financially. Have like Chuck said with education. I mean, it's a lot of things we can do, man, to better ourselves, but it takes effort. And stop being so lazy.
How about you, George?
But y'all probably gonna disagree and hate me for this one. But no, I'm just being no. Y'all know I'm big on education, but I think not so much school education. I think
100%.
I think just hustle harder, man. Everybody just needs to hustle harder. I think being creative and teaching our kids that education is a vehicle to get you to a certain place, but be creative and make something new, contribute to society, be a good citizen. There's a lot of things that you can do as a parent. Like V said, be an elder. You don't have to be rich in money, just be rich in wisdom. Be able to have somebody want be that beacon where people want to come down and sit down. And like I used to want to sit down with my grandfather and my grandmother have conversation. I used to seek my uncles and them out to have conversations. This generation sucks. These dudes, I mean, these women, these kids are weak. They're soft because and it's no fault of our own because we didn't want them to go through the same shit that we went through, so we made it soft for them. So we're part to blame because we don't know how to raise this generation because we can't raise them the way we were raised. But I would say, no, I mean it's just it is what it is. There is no way I could send my kids at the age I used to walk home from kindergarten at the age of 5 from school by myself with a key around my neck.
Mm-hmm.
Come on,
Yeah,
man.
same here.
Ain't no way in hell that you can do that these days. We can't, and we had a sense to hustle and do things to go. We used to try to get that dollar to go to the corner store and be like, "Hey, girl, you want? I got a dollar. I'm gonna give you a honey bun. You want a honey bun, baby?" Like they used to write, talk that shit. I wish that this generation was harder than what they are, versus trying to be something that they 9 times out of 10 won't even can't. The odds of you becoming a rapper today is greater than you graduating high school. Like anybody can jump on YouTube now and just rap. Anybody could jump on TikTok and do a dance or do whatever. I would say stop throttling these kids and saying these influencers let them see the influencers, but let them know what real and reality is. That's the only thing I say from me because I'm a creative myself. So I tell my kids all the time, if you don't think school is for you, do something else. If you're talented, use your talent, but give something back to community. That's it.
I appreciate all y'all answers tonight, and I think everyone's answer holds weight. Definitely education, and like I said, inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom. Learning to read between the lines, holding yourself accountable. It's all relative in the future of our society. And I want to thank you, our brothers, tonight for sticking it out. Did almost a 2-hour show tonight. I want to appreciate y'all. I know we got busy lifestyles and everything going on.
Hey,
No,
Josh,
you got to go ahead. Which one? Last thing.
06.
There we go. Okay.
Or you go, John, are you gonna outro us with some Whitney Houston? I believe the children are.
No, that ain't happening here today, bro. I'm sorry. Like I said, I want to thank all y'all for your hanging out with your busy
Y'all
schedule.
didn't notice, Jock kept putting us on mute because she kept yelling downstairs, come do these dishes. He ain't want you to hear.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate y'all, brothers. See y'all next time. Everyone, thank you for tuning into the FTC podcast. We'll see y'all next time. Have a good one.
All right, peace.